Hi, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal, and I am live on a Friday lunchtime, which means it is time for us to talk about coping with feelings. And hi there, Jeannie. Jeannie, I'm not sure if you're able to stay with us for the full broadcast, but I wonder if I could ask you to play admin for me because Jody needed to go and do something today. She'll be back this evening, but seeing as you're here, I just wondered whether I could ask that of you. No stress. If you can't do it, don't worry. I will manage it myself. So, a very warm Friday welcome to you all. And I just wanted to say that it has been a really challenging week for me on all sorts of levels, and I'm hoping that your week has been easier. Um, but the good news is I'm here. You can probably hear that I'm stuffed up and still dealing with allergies. I have taken some meds just because I don't want to spend the whole broadcast, you know, sniffing and sounding so clogged up. But the good news is that I'm here and I'm happy to be here and I'm happy that you are here. If any of you have any topics that you do want to talk about, please let me know in the front end here so I know how much time to leave to discuss them a little bit later. All right, so the first thing I wanted to make sure that you all know is Dear Mama Sal is a group of people who get together. It's not just me, it's a group of people who get together and help each other cope with life in general by joining in and chatting to each other 3 times a week. And we do 3 different broadcasts, 3 different focuses. We do coping with feelings on a Friday lunchtime. We do coping with life, where we talk about meals on a shoestring budget uh, or not. Whatever it is I feel like experimenting with for the week. And then the final one on a Sunday afternoon is called Coping with Stress, because we all have to do that. We all have to cope with stress every single day of our lives. So, in the meantime, I wanted to make sure that you all know with what is going on in the world, and I will talk to that a little bit more later. But I want to warn you all that the chances of cyber attacks now are even greater than they were before. So I want to start off by giving a big warning to you all, a big heads up. Please be extra careful. The reason I need you to be extra careful is because if people are asking you for your information over the phone, just to make it a policy that you don't give that sort of information over the phone. You don't have to be rude if you don't want to. You just say, I'm sorry, I don't buy things over the phone. I don't give my credit card information over the phone. And I am sorry. If they tell you that they're from your credit card company, which is a really good scam, it goes down a lot. My attitude is, thank you for letting me know. I will now phone them directly and double check that. Goodbye. And every time I have done that and phoned my credit card directly, they've just said, it's a scam. So I go, thank you very much indeed. That's all I wanted to know. Jeannie's saying on Tuesday morning, she got a cortisone shot for my hip, left hip. Been nearly 7 months and I'm limping a little. The shot will help greatly. Ouch. I want to say ouch because my memory of I had cortisone shots in all my knuckles one time. Yeah. I didn't rush to go back to do that again. And I've also had one in my thumb. That probably tells you, uh, uh, oh, sorry, Jeannie, you said you are going to have it. Well, you've obviously had it before. All right. And yes, I want to tell you that it definitely helps a lot. So all the best for you. I will. I can't ask Jody to make a note of that, but perhaps you could, Jeannie. Just make a note of it and send it to me after the broadcast so I can remember on Tuesday to check in on you. Okay, be very, very careful, please, of giving stuff away over the phone. Also, be very, very careful. It's a very clever con. Any of those things that ask you 1,001 questions, like what's your favorite color? What's your nickname at school? All those sort of supposedly really friendly things. But you'll be amazed how often they are used to steal your identity. So I think the easiest thing I can suggest to you is presume the worst for at the moment. All right, presume the worst and protect yourself more. So anybody comes up and you all know the computer scam, all right? That they're from Microsoft and da 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 da. Well, I found a really good way to confuse them is go, in your computer, da 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 da. I go, which computer? What? I got four. Which computer? Oh, the Microsoft one. They're all Microsoft ones. So which computer? And as soon as they stall, I said, exactly. Yeah. And I go, please, I pray that you find a job that is more rewarding than this one can be. Yeah. But, I also have sympathy for the people who can't get another job, so it's a two-way trade. The subject today is about patience. How many of you believe that you are patient? And I guess those of us who are a little older, have a bit more white hair on top, we probably have more patience than a lot of young people. Why? Because we've learned it. We've learned that you do need to be patient if you want to keep peace of mind. There's a Chinese proverb that says, one moment of patience may ward off a great disaster. One moment of impatience may ruin a whole life. And, that's an important thing to remember, that 1 minute of impatience could ruin a whole life. All right. And so please be aware that being patient will save you a lot of stress, a lot of stress. And I'd like to suggest that life pushes us so fast all the time, all right? Faster, faster, faster. And what I want you to know is that if you can slow yourself down, you will find that you are more at peace. And I think being at peace is what a lot of people, and especially my viewers, are working on in a very meaningful way. So I look at it and go, why was I always so impatient? Well, I think a lot of it had to do with achieving stuff. What about you guys? All right. It was like, oh, I got to get this done because I need to get this done by Friday. Years of working on heavy deadlines and stuff like that. And, it wasn't until I retired that I realized just how stressed I was by those deadlines. And now the opposite is happening. I'm trying to teach myself to let go of all these things. There is no rush unless I want there to be. And that's a big shift. And then there's a really nice quote here from St. Francis of Sales says, have patience with all things. But first of all, with yourself. How many of you are impatient with yourselves? And what is impatience? All right, what is patience? Patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, or even trouble or suffering without getting angry or upset. Life sometimes gets in the way. And when you can accept that, you will have a more peaceful life. It's said that patience is a person's ability to wait something out or endure something tedious, boring, without getting riled up. It takes a lot of patience to wait for your braces to come off, for example, all right? Or to deal with a toddler's temper tantrum, or to build a house out of toothpicks. To do things takes time. Oh, Jeannie's saying, I struggle because I need more patience. I'm picky about certain things. I do not like to tolerate being tardy, that's late, all right, except on certain behaviors from others. So think about that. Yes, Jeannie's saying age has slowed me down. Yeah, I want to say that, but boy, isn't it difficult. I found my impatience with getting over this flu that I had. No, it wasn't COVID. Getting over this flu, my impatience with that is amazing because for some reason I seem to link my being sick with being lazy. Do any of you relate to that? Hi, Autumn. I was just talking about toddlers. And so, it's like I'm not giving myself the time my body needs to recover, or I'm struggling to do that. And I'm hoping that some of you can relate to that. But it's not true, all right? I am still sick is the answer. And I've got over the flu, but now I'm still struggling with monumental allergies. And that doesn't make me feel well. And so I've got to get a sense of humor about this because for some reason I cannot accept that easily. Joyce Meyer said that patience is not simply the ability to wait, it's how we behave while we're waiting. And, I'm like a little kid at the moment. Like, hello, I want to get better now. I got things to do. But life is saying that I need to rest. Ah, yeah, that's so true. Jeannie's saying, as a child, nothing was ever an accident. Um, One was always at fault. Yes, you were. How many times were you blamed for things? And it's hard to get over. I agree. Autumn saying patience. I have three toddlers. One of them has autism and a speech disorder. And then she's got an emoji, a big smiling emoji, and said, "I am learning patience." Yes, apparently, that is your learning, all right, in all of this is to learn patience and to learn tolerance, Autumn, more than most of us. Now, I had a big challenge this week on patience, and it's not a pleasant topic. So I just want to give a warning to people because it has to do with my sewer getting blocked. So if any of you are going, ugh, but it's a wonderful lesson in patience. I've got to tell you that. All right. So the first thing I knew was I ran I ran my faucet in my bathroom to clean my teeth. No, I lie. I lie. Um, my dishwasher was going. That was the first indication I had that there was a problem. My dishwasher was going, and suddenly I heard, after it had finished putting out a lot of water, I suddenly heard this gurgle, 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 gurgle through the pipes. And that was very unusual. I hadn't ever heard that before. So I'm going, what? So I got up and thought, I wonder what the problem is. And I checked everywhere and I couldn't see anything wrong. And I flushed the guest bathroom toilet and that seemed to flush okay. And then I went to my master bathroom. And I then decided, well, while I'm here, I'm going to clean my teeth. It was nearly bedtime, so I'm going to clean my teeth. And I started to clean my teeth. And I'm a bad girl because I left the water running while I did that. And the next thing I heard was bubble, bubble, bubble in my toilet. So I got to show you this. So in my bathroom, if this is my bathroom, my vanity is here, okay, and then my toilet, and then I've got a wall-to-wall shower, and that's the drain for the shower. So I'm over here brushing my teeth, and suddenly I've got little bubbles or big ones, gurgle, 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 coming up through my toilet. Now that means that somewhere the water line here, and by the way, this is where it exits the house. And so all the other pipes coming from the guest bathroom and the kitchen and everything all end up here. So, but I was getting gurgle, gurgle here. And then I noticed some of that water was coming up a little bit. Very luckily, I noticed it very quickly. And I turned off the faucet. So I know that the block must be somewhere here, okay, between the shower and the exit pipe to the house. Um, or yeah, that's where it was. So anyway, I took the time to sort of work it out. And did that make me feel any better? No. My first reaction was, I need to call in a plumber. How many of you, that would be your first reaction? And then I went, wait a minute, think very carefully. What has gone down that toilet? And I'm presuming that whatever the blockage is happening is coming from the toilet. So I'm going, nothing has gone down there that isn't organic. All right. And that's what you have to think about, right? Is it organic? And therefore, if it's organic, it will break down with a little bit of help from your friends. All right. So what I actually did was I decided that I would order myself up one of those snakes that will go down a drain. And that's for next time. All right. I just said, okay, I don't have that. I can't put something down there and sort of twirl it around so that it can break up whatever's there. So I have ordered one of those, and I believe that it cost me less than $30, which is a lot better than the 400. I know from experience it would cost me to have somebody come in and clear the line professionally. You got to think about that. So I went, if all that has gone down there is organic, all right, that means that even though it's paper and other stuff, um, in time it will dissolve. I just need to help it dissolve more quickly if possible. Does that make sense? So the number one thing I know from experience is putting down a lot of soap. Really helps. A lot of, dish soap. So I put down quite a bit of dish soap and let that sort of do its number. The reason is that makes the pipe slippery and also breaks down grease, all right, where, if the clog is somewhere where the paper has got stuck because there's maybe grease on the pipes or whatever. So the soapy water will make it release more quickly. The other thing I know from experience is hot water. All right. So it's a really good idea to put hot water down. But you know that because of where the leak was or the blockage was, I couldn't put down a lot. So what I would do is fill a bucket with hot water. Rather than do it from my faucet, because my faucet would take time for the water to get hot. So I'd go to the other bathroom where I knew it was running okay, and then make sure I got a bucket of hot water, and then I'd throw a bucket of hot soapy water down into my toilet. And each time I did, I was getting gurgle, 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 gurgle. But then I would leave it. I'd go away for maybe an hour, and then I'd come back and do the same thing again. What do I know? Eventually, the soapy hot water will help loosen that stuff up. The other thing I did is I kept flushing the other toilet to make sure that line stayed clear, because that was also important to me. So here's a nice quote. Learning patience can be a difficult experience, but once conquered, you will find life easier. Yeah, Autumn is saying they used to have one of those snake things, and it worked great. Yes, and that's what I'm going. I need to get one again. So luckily, I've got a second toilet in the house, by the way, and that helped me make my decision. If I had one toilet that was working properly, then that wasn't an issue. I could learn. How many of you are campers? Have had, during your lifetime you went camping. I believe that camping is one of the greatest things to teach us patience. I always used to say to people who went camping with me, and I used to take people all the time, I used to say to them, as we started to leave the driveway of my house, the adventure starts here. And they'd look at me and go, what? And I said, don't think the adventure starts when we get where we're going. The adventure starts here. So let me tell you about camping. Whether it is in a um, RV or in a tent or whatever, the adventure starts the moment you leave your driveway. And any of you who are campers, you will know what I mean. The number of times that it happened to me that I broke down before I ever got to the campground I was going to, or, whatever. It was just like, so I used to warn people, this whole weekend will be about adapting and learning to laugh our way through whatever, happens. And that is why I really, really believe that all children should be taken camping. Learn how to adjust, learn that the food gets cooked once the fire is made, and all those sort of things, and how to do that, because it's all survivalist stuff and it's all patience. You just can't have things quite as quickly when you're camping. And so I urge you all to think about that. So what I knew from my camping experience was patience was going to be really important for me. So every hour I poured down more soap, and every hour more hot water, hot soapy water. And then I would go to the other toilet and I would plunge that to create the suction. All right. Now, obviously, I did a little bit of plunging to my own toilet, but I had to be careful because that water was coming up into my shower and I didn't want that. So what I did is I've got a guest toilet somewhere around here in the house, and I kept plunging that one so that it would cause the vibration in the pipe and keep sucking, quietly pulling. Uh, what I wanted to do was to pull that clog apart. And it took me okay. Jeannie, you have accidentally nuked Autumn. So, okay, I've just redone it. So just be careful. I, um, okay, I've unhidden you, Autumn, so you can keep, I don't know how that happened. Never mind. Um, anyway, so the main thing is to stay patient, all right? It's all organic. Enough water goes down there, enough vibration of the pipe, plunging it. Eventually, that thing bit by bit is going to be pulled through or just break apart. So I knew that. Meantime, in my bathroom, I kept putting water down the line um, just until it started to gurgle. All right. And, once it started to bubble in my toilet, I knew that it had got enough water in the line, because what I want to do is to get water to continually feed through that clog. So it took a long time. It took 2 slow days to clear it. But I didn't panic. Why? I knew that had to be a clog of only organic material. And so therefore, it was just a matter of time before, if I kept doing the right things, before it unplugged. Now, how many of you would have had the patience to wait for 2 days, even if you had a second bathroom? A lot of people wouldn't, and I understand that. But as this quote says, patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. So can you understand that the reward for me was when that thing did release? First of all, I wasn't quite sure that it had done it. You know, that feeling like, did I manage that? I better check. Um, but I was pretty sure I had. So I thought, that's awesome. I'm going to try and shower. Jeannie, I fixed it already. Don't worry. Don't worry. I have fixed it already, Jeannie. I can do it from here. And I did. It's a learning moment, Jeannie. Take a deep breath and be patient with yourself. Being a mod can be difficult. So, can you understand that it took a lot of focus on that one issue? For 2 days, my whole life was about if it's been an hour, I need to get up and put more water, soapy water down the system, and then I need to go to the other bathroom, and plunge that toilet, and it was like it took up 2 days, and it didn't matter how angry I got or frustrated, which I didn't. Being angry or frustrated wouldn't have made it work any faster at all. The choice I had was to keep on doing what I knew was right and would eventually unclog the line, or to phone a professional who would do the same thing roughly, except he'd have a snake. Um, and it would take, a lot of money that I didn't want to spend. So would you agree that learning not to panic takes experience? And that's why I say that, taking children or even adults camping. I had one adult that I took camping with me one time, and boy, did that adult have a problem with tolerance. And for those of you who have been camping, what lessons did you learn camping? What lessons did your children learn from camping? And I'd be interested to hear what your answers are on that. And by the way, if you're watching on the replay, feel free to answer that, because it's important for people to understand that these are very important skills to teach children in particular, but also adults who are still acting like children. So as I said, I think it saved me about $400. And I think it's so important that we remind ourselves some things just take longer than we want them to. All right? So I'm pretty certain that you all, as Autumn said, her experience to teach her patients is having children. Um, having children that are young together, it takes an awful lot of patience. So maybe I can ask Autumn, what have you learned to do to keep calm when you want to scream with frustration? Yeah, Jeannie's saying 2 days takes a lot of patience. I actually have to say, Jeannie, that I was very grateful for 2 days. I was so grateful to have a second bathroom in my house. All right. And for those of you who are campers, if you've ever learned camping to take a bucket of warm water and wash your hair and shower with one bucket of water, um, you will learn that how much water we really waste every day. So one of the things I did when I thought the line was clear, I thought, well, the test will be if I take a shower in my bathroom. And, I had to be really careful because my shower is almost flat. And the reason, the lip getting into it is only about 2 inches. Um, maybe. I think it's about 2 inches. I don't have a ruler here. Would that be about 2 inches? Yeah, that's about an inch, right? At the knuckle to the top. So yeah, I would say maybe it's only an inch. Let's call it an inch and a half. Split the difference. So I knew that if that water started to come back out, I'd only got an inch room before it started flooding the house. So I had to be really, really careful. Was I scared? You bet. But the amazing thing was the first thing I did was to fill up the bucket. In other words, if it did start to come back at me, um, then I knew I could slam off the water and I'd still have a bucket of water to be able to continue the rest of, washing my hair or cleaning my body. And oh, I was so excited. I managed a whole shower and it didn't come back at me. So I knew the line was clear. Autumn's saying that her trick is I need to go, mummy. I need to go and have mummy calm down moments in my room for a few minutes sometimes. I pick my battles and let things go. Deep breaths, lots of deep breaths, self-care and taking breaks often. Yes, if you are trying to learn patience, getting away from whatever's causing you frustration is a really good idea. And sometimes getting away from it just so you can think it through again. And, I cannot tell you how many times I walked away from the problem and just went, okay, what haven't I thought of yet? So I spent some time online. And one of the things that it said online, was that, to cover my toilet bowl with plastic wrap and then flush it so that would force the air. But if you think about it, um, if I force the air, need a different color. If I force the air here and the blockage, okay, if the blockage is here and I force the air here, the water was going to come out of my shower, and I did not want that. So I had to let go of that possibility of how to get it cleared. And so I realized I just needed to be patient, just keep repeating what I knew was right and work on it. Autumn's adding that trying to see things from her children's perspective, to see how they are feeling too. Yes, there's a reason why babies cry. There's a reason why they have a temper tantrum. And a lot of it has to do with the fact they cannot tell you what's wrong if they're not speaking yet. I believe that to accept and tolerate is extremely difficult if you don't have patience. To accept the reality, this is going to take time. And tolerate the inconvenience of not being able to use my master bathroom, right? Those two things were the things I need to work on to be able to make this work. I also knew that at any time I could phone a plumber and have them come in, spend the money and have them come in. Hi, Kimmy. Good to see you. We're talking about patience. I remember all my years of being in the trailer. Jodi's not here today, Kimmy. She'll be here this evening. She's got a function today uh, that's really important, and she's gone to. So I gave her the afternoon off. Jeannie's acting as admin for us. How about this one? Be patient and tough. Someday, right? This pain will be useful to you. All right. I really could feel all my camping days coming back to support me in this. I always remember the time when I took Big Brother Jeff up to Whistler just before we had the Olympics. And I took him up to Whistler with my trailer. I had a 26-foot trailer in those days. And, overnight, all my lines froze, the big ones, sewer line and grey water line, it all froze. The tank itself was freezing. So what did I know? I needed to warm things under the trailer. But, you've got to be careful how you do that. And I literally went scavenger hunting through the trailer and everywhere else. And I got enough cardboard boxes and bits of carpeting and all sorts of things. Then I created a complete barrier around the tanks. And then what I did is I took a little um, bedside light, about this big, and I put it inside that frame that I'd built. Why? Because I knew from experience that one light bulb as long as you could keep the heat from it in that cavity, would actually unfreeze the tanks. So I think so many things came back to me on this problem from my camping experience. And that's why I said, for those of you who've been camping, I think that we have a better tolerance than a lot of people. Leo Tolstoy said, two of the most powerful warriors are patience and time. My question, I guess, in part is, do you think that children today learn patience? Um, and it's one of the things that I constantly ask. How many adults do you know that are patient? Do young people still save up for things that they want, or do they expect it all immediately? Autumn saying, I camped with the kids before I had the twins. We call it the trip from Hell. Yeah, it was hard. Of course it was. But you know something, Autumn? You will never forget it. What did you learn on that trip? 'Cause what I love about camping is the reality. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, it would have been a really good idea to pack, a can opener or whatever. And, I can remember one time I had Yvonne's young son, Cody, with me. And we drove 2 hours away to the campground before he realized he had not got something he really, really needed. And so I had to do the 2 hours back to home again so that he could pick it up. And then another 2 hours back to the campsite. So, that was 6 hours of driving on the first day. But I can assure you the next time I took him, he had a much better list. And I say, do young people still save up for things? Because I think saving up for something is teaching them patience. Oh, Autumn is saying about her trip that didn't go too well, right? It was raining a lot and it was super messy and wet. We spent one night and then we went to a hotel. We learned not to go camping until they're a little older. Yeah, I must admit, one of the memories I had was where that particular place where I took Cody camping. I knew it had a little arcade in it. I think it had a pinball machine and a slot machine or something. And so the first day, I gave him some spending money, and I said, by the way, this is the only spending money that you will get. So use it wisely. Be patient with it. Right now, you and I both know that an arcade is, by noises and flashing lights and everything else, it's built for you to play another game all the time. And you can do better, play another game. And that's psychologically how it's built. And so it didn't take very long before young Cody came back to me and said, I've run out of money. I said, oh, okay. And then he stood there and I said, what are you waiting for, honey? And he said, more money. I said, no, it doesn't work like that. And do you remember I gave you the money and said, use it wisely because that's all there is? And his eyes just went on, stalks and went, yeah. And I said, that's what I meant. But, the next day I gave him a little bit more and he went off and he was back very quickly. And so it took him until the third day to work out an intelligent question, which was, can I do something to earn money? And I said, oh, that's a nice concept. Well, yes, actually you can. And, it was just like, why would I not reward good behavior? So number one, if we know that having patience requires experience, then let's revisit it. If you wanted to teach somebody patience, how would you teach it? Yeah, what things would you do to teach patience to a child or to another adult? What about if you um, have an older person, that is getting frustrated because they can't do what they used to do? How would you teach them patience? Kimmy's saying on the issue about do children uh, learn to save up for things today? She's saying most kids don't save because they won't work and they don't want to do anything nowadays. Ah, Autumn's saying that one of the best ways to teach anybody patience is to model it. How many of you remember with Judy and the twins? I think it was Auntie Mel rather than either Auntie Mel or Auntie Val. One of them, anyway. They showed the children that when the computer was thinking, that circle comes up and the little thing keeps going round. And they came up with this expression, patience like a circle. You see, they taught the children that when the computer needs time to think, the screen will go blank and just that little circle will come up. And so you just need to be patient, like the circle. And when it's ready, and only when it's ready, will it pop up again. And I always thought that was such a great lesson to teach the girls. And some of you use that expression yourself. I'm pretty certain there are an awful lot of people who are using that expression because of the girls. So, number one, how about making yourself wait? How many of you think you could do that? Make yourself wait for things, right? Even if your routine is get up and have that first coffee, maybe for a while you delay that gratification. Maybe what you say is, I actually don't need a coffee to start my day. I just need to start my day. And my reward today will be when I've done the first hour, I'll have a coffee. In other words, switch it around and teach yourself. How about streaming movies? Like, once you start streaming, you just click on the next one and carry on. I have a new thing now, which is when I stream stuff, I also put on a timer so that every 30 minutes I put it on hold and I get up and go and do something. All right, because I know how quickly that will eat up my available time in the day. One lesson that I see quite a bit when talking about teaching patience is to stop doing unimportant tasks. Stop doing unimportant tasks. The reason for that is that we get frustrated and run out of time because we spend so much of our time doing stuff that we actually don't need to do, or we are not doing stuff focusing enough on that one task. We're all over the place because we don't like doing that task. We get distracted from it very easily. So the trick is I am trying to teach myself that every half hour I get up and start on that same project, the one I got distracted from. So that is the trick. Keep going back to that first thing that you got distracted on until it's done. So take the time to slow down, right? Remember what Autumn said. She knows that she needs frequent breaks away from the stress and just time to breathe, all right? I love it when I get really quite busy. When Jodie's around, she always says to me, remember to pace yourself. And what I know from that is you can go like a banshee, yeah, but then stop and relax for half an hour. And then go back. And you can go like a banshee if you're not struggling with allergies, that is. You go like a banshee and then you can stop and rest for a while. And if you do that, you'll have far more energy. Now, Autumn, seeing as you've got the experience, and I know Jeannie and Kimmy and everybody else as well, you all have experience of being impatient. Are there certain things that make you more impatient, right? For example, Autumn, is it the frustration of them screaming and you don't know how to fix it? What is it that leads to that impatience where you start to lose control? And if you can, we all have these triggers. I found that the most important thing for me to do was take a step that I knew fundamentally, if I kept repeating the right step, it would clear eventually. The next thing was I knew that if it hadn't cleared it within 4 days, I was prepared to give it 4 days. If it hadn't cleared within 4 days, I probably would need a professional. And then you can say, well, why wouldn't you start with that? $400. I was not keen to spend $400 on it. So when you slow down and look at things, I believe there are lessons for all of us. Autumn is saying when everyone is crying all at once and they all need things all at once, or if I'm trying to do something and they keep interrupting me, absolutely. So you know what your triggers are. So Autumn, because you are a smart lady, what have you learned to do? I know you've learned to separate yourself away from the problem, but you probably do something for them first. Am I correct in that? It is said that trust the process. Your time is coming. Just do the work and the results will handle themselves. I want to tell you, I kept telling myself that more, a version of that more than you can believe. I kept going, Sal, you're doing great. You're doing the right things. You are not forcing the system too much. You are just bit by bit creating a change. And I did think about things like, what if I put a dishwasher tab into the system? Why? A dishwasher tab contains soap and enzymes that break down grease and things. So I was thinking, that probably isn't a bad idea and I did do that, is I actually dropped a dishwasher tab, one of those multi-tabs, into the toilet and then flushed it. So that would go down to where the clog was. That was one of the things I added to my thing, because each time I sat down, I tried to think of more ways that I could help it, just bit by bit. And I think that learning to relax is a very important thing. Hi Beth, how are you doing? Most things take time to get them right. I knew that I just needed to keep doing the right things and be patient enough to give it time to work. It obviously was a serious clog, and it wasn't going to unclog in a hurry. Now, how many of you remember that I bought a new clothes rack that I started to build, only to find out that some of the parts actually did not fit each other the way they were meant to? Let me just go back to Autumn for a second. Autumn saying, about the children, before she went to take a break, she set them up with activities before I start my own projects. I also tried to deal with one child at a time during transitions and routines. Also trained my 5-year-old on how to help her brother. Awesome. And, that is really important, that you train the children to look after one another. So this clothes rack, if you remember, I could have thrown it away. I could have donated it, but what did I know? There were certain bits that for some reason did not fit into where they were meant to fit into. And if you remember, I thought about it for a couple of days and I read reviews, and somebody else had exactly the same problem as I did, and they said they just packed it all up and took it to Goodwill. Well, I am going, why would I take it to Goodwill if I know fundamentally it doesn't fit together properly? So, I better to put it in the trash. But anyway, I decided no, I was going to see whether this was in fact an error, that for some reason they had sent me the wrong feet for this frame, and it turned out that they did, and I'm waiting for the new feet to arrive so that I can put this thing together properly. But now it's a big drying rack, all right? It stands about this high, and it has all sorts of levels to it, and then it slides out as well. So you've got the drying rack here and a hanging rack here if you want it, or if you don't want it, you can bring that in. It also has, on this section, sort of more rails, if you like, that fold out this way. So when you don't need them, you just put them like this. And then when you want the extra rails, you can then hang things on both sides. But it's quite complicated. But it is exactly what I wanted. And now I've got a half-built one of those in my bedroom. So question, if you think about it, is that frustrating? Right? Is that frustrating to have that in your way all the time? And am I impatient to get that fixed? No, because every time I see it, I put it to the side tidily. I could have, unpacked it all again or packed it all up again and put it away. But I decided, no, it took a long time to get all the bits unpacked. I'm going to leave the bits as they are and just put them, just not in that I need to trip over it every day. Let's put it that way. And every time I see it, I smile and I go, your feet are coming in my head, right? Every time I see this collection of pipes and things, I go, your feet are on the way. So I keep reminding myself that I can't do it yet. So I don't need to worry about it yet. I don't need to get frustrated about it because I can't do it right until the feet are there. Kimmy's saying that children need to learn respect. No, adults need to teach respect. All right? You cannot ask a child to learn respect if don't have that role model. Remember what Autumn said. Respect is about a role model. And so although I agree with you that it does feel like children today don't respect adults the way that our generation did. But they also don't fear them the way that our generation did, and I think that's part of it. Absolutely, Autumn, I agree with you. And as adults, we need to respect children too. I thought this was an incredible quote, and it said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Mahatma Gandhi said that. So you understand that every day I make a choice. The choice to put that whole unit away and so I don't see it, or the choice to have it in my way a little bit, but remember to compensate for the impatience I have about it by going, hush, its feet are on the way. I don't need to keep getting worried about it. So I'm choosing to let it be. I've learned that I don't need to be impatient with it. The feet will arrive in their own sweet time. I don't know how long that will take. Yes, Kimmy's saying that's what she meant as well. That's what I'm saying. They don't respect like we did. Well, let me ask you something, Kimmy. Were you ever beaten as a child to teach you respect? Because when I think back to it, or were you ever shamed by an adult to teach you respect? When I think back on it, yes, we had respect, but boy, were we also abused in that. And were we fearful of the consequences all the time? And there is a lot to be said that, we lived mantras, didn't we? Like, um, respect your elders. I mean, we were taught that, respect your elders. But how many adults really don't respect the young people? And so we all need to learn that. How many of you know that my weight has been a big lesson in patience? For those of you who don't know, I am clinically considered obese. Um, but on the good news, I have systematically been doing a lot more of the better things, and I got a big surprise this morning. I am already 7.8 pounds down this year. That's want to tell you something. That was a big surprise that I suddenly dropped those extra pounds. But on the other hand, I'm not really surprised because been doing more and more of the right things. My portion control is much better than it was. I didn't want to do a diet because I knew a diet, as soon as I got to the weight I wanted, I'd just, go back and put on the weight again. So what I said to you all when I started this journey was, I am going to do this systematically. Took me a long time to get from fit to overweight. And then it took me even longer to get from overweight to obese. Yes, Kimmy is saying, and I think if I wasn't disciplined, I would have been just like the kids are today. And also, she said, yes, she was beaten and abused by her parents, and that's why she respects. But the question is that true respect or is it fear? All right. So, how many of you are glad that we don't do that to children anymore? All right. That we understand it's abusive. And we are the ones that need to be aware that if the only way you can gain respect is by abuse, then you don't have respect. All right? It is fear. And it's terrifying. I am pretty certain an awful lot of my viewers are still dealing with the aftermath of having been terrorized as a child. So think about that. In terms of my weight loss, have I been patient? Yes. Have I learned that it won't suddenly drop off me? That weight won't suddenly go away. Yes, that's the main thing, to remain patient. Do the right things and remain patient. So I've been quite surprised at the results that I actually have got. And I need to tell you that. I've been quite surprised. And especially that I am now, what did I say? It was 3. It's, I think it's close to, it's over 5 pounds. Anyway, no, it's over 7 pounds, 7.5 pounds I've lost this year alone. And so I've lost a whole lot, but it's been sort of goes down a bit, goes up a bit, goes down a bit, goes up a bit, goes down a bit, like that. So, but this is a sudden drop, and it really, I can feel it. Well, yes, Kimmy's saying you can't do anything to kids these days. They will turn you in. They know they can. And I believe that that is right. Why? Kimmy, I know, I understand where you're coming from. I want you to know that. But I want to tell you that children have been taught that abuse is not okay. That if your parent loses their temper and loses their patience with you and then swats you or hits you or that's abusive. Therefore you can report them. I think it's important for them to understand what abuse looks like. And what about mental abuse? I brought you into this world and I'll take you out. Yeah, hello. All these things that were quite okay in my day, and I'm glad they're not anymore. So here I am, 7.5 pounds down from the beginning of the year. And so you look at it and go, I've had to be really patient with myself to be able to do this because I've had to learn. And it's not easy to learn to take smaller portions when society has given you bigger and bigger and bigger portions. So, very important to understand, right? I could also speed up the process even more by doing more exercise. I know that, and I will, the weather's starting to get better now, so I will be adding more of that. And if I keep eating with the smaller portions and doing the exercise, I'm going to keep getting this drop happening. Autumn's going, there have been times when I have yelled and spanked, and I'm sorry every time. It makes me feel really bad when I lose it. I tell my kids I'm not perfect and what I should have done differently. Huh. Yes, that's being a very responsible adult in my view, Autumn. And so Kimmy's saying they can blame the actions of the child on the parents today. All right. So, my question is, how much would you like to be a teacher today? How do teachers keep control these days? Yeah, in my day, how did teachers keep control? It was called a ruler, and it smacked you across the knuckles if you weren't paying attention, or if you weren't sitting up straight, or whatever. Lao Tzu, one of my favorite monks, said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." Right? Okay, so I think it's really, and Kimmy's saying she doesn't think there's anything wrong with the occasional swat on the rear end, and going into a timeout to think about what they've done. Yes. And so, hi, Asha. So if you think about it, if if you have ever been mistreated by your parents, the chances are they didn't have the patience, all right? They couldn't hold on to their frustration long enough. So what do? They lash out. And so that is why patience is really important, not only for our children, but for ourselves. What I learned, for example, and I've learned it big time, both with being diabetic and with being obese, is it is important what I put in my mouth. And what I put in my mouth will be reflected on the shape of my body. Now, maybe I didn't lose 7.5 pounds this year by putting a lot of the wrong things in my body. I'm still putting some wrong things in. I still eat bread. I still eat apple pie and ice cream, all right? But I don't do it as much, and the portions I do it with are far less. And so I have good days and bad days. I've learned to be patient with myself. And if my weight suddenly goes up 2 pounds, what do? I check back. What have I been eating? I need to change that. I just went up 2 pounds. All right. I need to be patient with myself. This is called, okay, not what can't you do, what do you know works? And I know what works is for me to just have soup as dinner for a couple of days, and I will be just fine. So do you understand this business about patience? All right. Now, being angry at myself is not going to help me lose weight. Being frustrated with myself is not going to help me lose weight. What helps me is when I do the right things. And if I have spent all these years doing the wrong things, is the most important thing I can do is to learn to be patient. It took me a long time to get all these wrong things as part of my pattern of life. It's going to take a while to change all of that. And I don't mean a week or even a month. I am now down probably close to 20 pounds from my highest weight when I got started to get, I need to change. And so to me, this is like, I've learned a lot. I've learned to be patient with myself. I've learned that when I do the right things, I get the right results, mostly. Now, obviously, if I have illnesses, I won't always get the right results, all right? Maybe I can do all the right things, but it's not changing a lot. But maybe what you're doing is keeping yourself in a holding pattern and not getting worse. And so I do believe that doing the right things is vitally important. I also believe that one of the reasons that I have lost all this weight now and I'm still on the journey is because I am patient and I don't give up on myself. Now, how many of you hearing that I have lost all this weight this year will be surprised to hear I still need to lose another 29 pounds to make it to overweight? All right. And I know you're saying, but Sal, you don't look that bad. Huh? But look at this. I need to lose that much. Think about it. And so to me, it is really important to stay patient, right? It's not going to drop off in a week. It might not even drop off in 5 years. So my new process is I'm going to keep doing the right things. Those of you who've watched my Friday evening broadcast where we do meal prepping, I want to tell you that a few years ago, a piece of steak for me was at least that. You know, if it wasn't that size, it wasn't a decent piece of steak. I've now learned that the size of my palm, okay, get that? The size of my palm is a helping of steak, right? So all my steaks, and in fact, what I do now is I actually take a little bit more off. So that to me is now a helping of steak. So what used to be a full helping of steak like this, I now cut into 3. That means that I can enjoy steak anytime I want to. I'm just not eating as much of it. Right, Jeannie's saying, I have trouble walking due to the left hip, so I must have patience and still push myself to do some exercise until I can walk more again. Remember, Jeannie, 2 years ago, when I bought this place, I struggled to get up the stairs, you know, because I have stairs up to my front door. I had to hold on to the railing and basically help myself up with the railing. Do any of you relate to that? Why? I had arthritis in my left hip. And what I did was I gave myself one of those mantras again. Jodie's not here to this broadcast, Kimmy. So this is the interesting thing. I knew that I needed that mantra. If you don't use it, you will lose it. And if you remember 2 years ago, I started doing exercises. For example, I would try and bring this knee up to counter height. And I want to tell you, when I started 2 years ago, I don't think I could bring it up much more than this. But now, look, I can go above counter height with it now. I have increased my range of motions. All right, that much. So Jeannie's saying that hers isn't arthritis, it's bursitis. But the thing is, again, all right, look at what you can do, not what you can't. I have found that even though I've been bad about my exercise this year, I've definitely had 2 weeks where I have basically been an imitation of a frog on a log. I've been almost snuggled up on my couch for 2 weeks now because I've been so sick. But I still am aware that I can do the right things. And the good news was, because I was that sick, I wasn't that hungry. And that also has been instrumental in cooking less and therefore putting on less weight. Think about that. Okay. So for all of you, what is it that you do to increase your patience? And how did you learn it? Give me some examples, things you are, or how about talking about what you're impatient about at the moment? Because have you noticed that your impatience on things get triggered on different things depending on what your emotional intelligence is? I got very impatient with a visitor this week, within the last week, where I had a visitor already in my house, and then suddenly, very weird, because another visitor knocked on the door and basically invited themselves in on the pretext of something. And I'm going, wait a minute, I'm spending time with this visitor. And now you are, in my head, this is what and now you're taking away from my time with this visitor. And I must admit, I got quite frustrated with it. I also got impatient with it. And they were asking my guest to do things for them that they could have done later. But no, they needed it done now. I found that arrogant and I got impatient. Does that make me a bad person? And hi there, Gary. And so I look at this and go, in my upbringing, what happened was rude. All right. And so, but they didn't see it as rude, obviously. They thought they were quite entitled to do that. Right. And Niash is saying, I think that's crossing boundaries. Yes, it is crossing a boundary, but not everybody has boundaries, right? Not everybody has been taught social skills. So the other thing was, I didn't ask my visitor how they felt about it. But what I did do is, once it got down to a bit about all that needed to happen was a needle needed to get threaded. And I said, do you have a needle threader at home? Yeah. I said, okay, so we've done what you need us to do. In other words, get out. Yeah, Jeannie's saying, I'm now enjoying fresh fruits, nectarines, apples, bananas, watermelon, to help eating well. All right. Patience gave me this help. Yes. And then I was horrified to find out, Jeannie, that some of those healthy fruits and vegetables, carried some very significant negative carbs. So not eating well isn't about just changing and eating more fruits and vegetables. It's lowering the portions and knowing which fruits only to have some of, because they are very high in sugars. Now, you will remember that some weeks ago, I'm going to talk a little bit about the news now. You'll remember that some weeks ago, I talked about the fact that I thought the Russian soldiers would be having problems with things like, you know, being in those personnel carriers and freezing in the weather that they had. And I definitely heard it confirmed this week that some of them are actually dying from frostbite. And that's sad to me. I don't care if they're the bad people. I don't think anybody should have to die from frostbite. And this is like, do we not remember history here? Autumn's asking, how did you learn not to stress eat? I still stress eat, Autumn. That's when I put up the 2 pounds again. That's when I'll weigh myself and go, oh, I just put on 2 pounds. Why? Oh, because I'm stress eating. One of the things I have learned is to have the alternative, Autumn, and that requires a little bit of mental gymnastics. So I go to the fridge to find something sweet to eat. And as I find myself thinking that, I go, if you're craving sweet, eat meat. In other words, eat a protein. So when I open up the fridge, I will not go for an apple necessarily. I'll go for a boiled egg. All right. Jeannie's saying she's taught herself the discipline of not eating late at night. All right. So, Autumn, you understand that if I crave sweet, let me eat meat. Right? Do the opposite. All right. So Niasha's saying, I must admit I've got zero patience when it comes to when I don't see improvement. All right. But what Niasha's saying, but Mama Sal, as you rightfully pointed out, it could very well be keeping a holding pattern. You might not be seeing a dramatic change, but it's not getting worse if you're doing the right things. And if you see any improvement, I assure you that when I started to see my graph go down like this, I got quite excited. And then suddenly I went up, but the graph still was holding steady. Why? Because I wasn't overeating all the time, just every now and then, Autumn, every now and then I would stress eat, but it didn't affect the overall curve, right? Because I wasn't doing it every day and I wasn't doing it to that extent. And I knew how to compensate for it if I had a day. Look at it. I went out to dinner with my friend Marnie. What did I have? Fish and chips. And we ordered extra chips. Well, she did. And I shared the extra chips. And, I had fish actually, and I had poutine. That is fish, with chips, with gravy, and cheese curds. Hello, that is not healthy food. And then for dessert, I had apple pie with ice cream. Right? Now, do I know that none of that was healthy? Of course I do. I hadn't seen her for 2 years. And we both are on a mission to lose a lot of weight. And I want to tell you, we thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, what the difference is, Autumn, is I knew I was going to do that. Right? So for a few days before, I lowered my intake on things like carby things, right? Or I didn't eat any bread. I tried not to eat any pasta or rice. I tried to eat pretty clean, knowing that there was going to be a spike on Monday, right? I knew there was going to be a spike. But the most incredible thing was that I had done it well enough that my blood glucose spiked, but not nearly as badly as I thought it would. So, Nyasha's saying, I used to view a holding pattern as a sign of defeat. Yeah, and she's saying, but now I'm realizing it's not necessarily so. Yeah, you see, this is the whole thing. If you want anything to work, you need to do it the right way. You need to know what I'm doing is the right thing, and then be patient. All right? And don't blame your scales or stress or whatever for your eating. Autumn? All right? When you think about it, what is stress eating? It's a lack of control. You're punishing yourself. Why we do that is beyond me. So what I've learned to do, and I know this sounds really strange, if I want ice cream for dessert tonight, I will be really careful not to eat very much during the day. By the way, it is now nearly 1:30. Have I had anything to eat today? No, I haven't had anything to eat today. And I will not obviously eat until after the broadcast. And that's when I will have breakfast. All right, Autumn, enjoy making supper. But, hopefully we'll see you again, Autumn. Enjoy. Remember those portion control things. Now, did you also hear in terms of the news that Ukraine is now beginning to take back areas that were overrun by the Russians? See, they're patient. Doesn't matter that you took us here. We're going to be patient. When we get enough ammunition, we will come back and retake those areas. And that's what they're doing. Now, I also heard yesterday that Ukraine is asking the U.S. For two sorts of missiles. And one of them is the Stinger. And what Ukraine has told the U.S. is we need 500 Stingers a day. Now, I don't know if you guys know what the reality of that is. I looked up the cost of one Stinger. And from what I can see, one Stinger cost $26,000. So Ukraine is asking for 500 of them. This is over and above the tanks they want, the fighter jets they want, this, that, and the other, millions of dollars. But they're saying we need 500 Stingers a day. And that basically, if one Stinger costs 26,000, that's 13 million in a day just on Stingers. Or 390 million every month just on Stingers. Forget the airplanes they want, forget the tanks that they want, forget everything else that they're asking for. Do you understand that somebody is paying the bill? Jeannie is saying the Ukrainians are so brave fighting for their freedom. They're fighting for their land. Yes, I agree with you. But the question is this, Jeannie, and you have to think about this in reality, which is somebody is paying the bill for all of this, and it's you. All right? And how will that bill be paid? To my horror, I heard something today that has been proven because it was said categorically. that even though the US could produce more gasoline to help lower the prices, they are choosing not to because of the profit they're making at the moment. I don't know about you, that makes me pretty sick, but it is reality. And that will only stop when people complain about it enough and go, you're not making enough profit already. And now we are already hurting and we are accepting these price increases because of trying to support Ukraine. But you need to do your part too. So produce more so we can bring the price down. Do a Walmart, produce more so we can bring the price down. And I say do a Walmart because isn't that how Walmart started? The reason that they were able to offer such low prices is because they bought in bulk and then sold things off at $1 at a time or whatever. It was like the original dollar store. So you think about it. Yes, we're all putting up with higher prices in support, but for how long? How long before you say, 390 million a month just on stingers is enough? Isn't it scary? 390 million a month. And I think we all would agree that Zelensky's request of just give me 1% of everything, 1% of your fighter jets, 1% of your stingers, 1% of your, just give me 1% of everything. And remember, they are still not in NATO. So I totally agree with supporting the Ukraine. And it's an expense that has to be paid if we want to have Ukraine remain democratic. But boy, it's going to be expensive. And my question is, how much patience will you have when it affects you more and more? When the supply chain, requires us to have emptier shelves, when you can't buy meat the way that you used to. Oh, and by the way, one of the things that Jody was talking about this week is expect there to be a drop in the price of meat in the near future. Why? Ukraine is the breadbasket of the world. It produces the world's flour, corn, everything else. It's the breadbasket. So if we know that Ukraine is getting decimated, and if we know that their fields are being destroyed, and if we know that all this is happening, what is going to happen to the cost of grain? All right. Well, we know that now, right? Because we're smart people. We know that when supply goes down, the price goes up. So therefore, what's going to happen is there will be grain available, but only if you can afford to pay for it, because the price will go up. So this will be a great time to start learning to do without carbs. All right. Um, I haven't bought bread for over 2 years because I now know how to make my own. It still uses flour, but it costs me less to make. And to me as well. All right, if you think about it, today, if I have bread, a piece of bread is about this size. Uh, and that's a serving of bread for me. Whereas before, it would be a couple of slices. And it's whole grain sourdough. Most of the sweet has gone out of it. Jeannie is saying if we lose Ukraine, we may well lose Taiwan to China. And we need what Taiwan produces. But the reality is, even if we lose what Taiwan produces, somebody else will step in to fill that void. All right. I hear today, and I don't know if anybody else heard this, but apparently Russia is now calling for troops out of Georgia. In other words, they have started to demand um, troops out of other countries surrounding them. And I heard that they want the Belarus people to, join in the fight as well. So this is getting very nasty. Would love to know what the discussion has been between the US and China. Because obviously, if China came in to support Russia, then we have a critical situation. So I believe it is something where we need to pray that level heads prevail. And hey, time will tell, right? We don't know. We don't know if they will allow China will allow this to go on or not. And what about North Korea? What if North Korea starts supplying stuff to Russia, including, the bad things? So you look at it and you go, it's a very expensive. So here's the other side of the coin. Remember, I said Stingers alone would cost about 400 million a month for NATO. But what about for Russia? All right. I hear that instead of the ground troops coming closer to Kiev, they are busy digging in, all right, to hold those positions. Okay. So Jeannie's saying semiconductors from Taiwan are critical to us. Yes, Jeannie, but my question is this. Could another country produce the semiconductors? I know that Taiwan is the big producer of them right now, but could another country become the big producer? Yes, and it would be more expensive. I think the whole thing about products coming out of China and coming out of Taiwan and so forth is there is a very low cost of labor. Whereas, and it's same thing with India, right? A low cost of labor. So if we start to produce these things in different countries, yes, we might be able to get the supply, but they would become so much more expensive. Does that make sense? Good input, Jeannie. Thank you. So here we are. We're in a world that is very uncertain at the moment, and life still gets in our way. I can assure you that for 48 hours, my concern was less on Ukraine and more about the problem in my sewer pipe. Does that make sense? It was like I didn't have enough bandwidth in my brain to be trying to fix the world as well as my sewer pipe blockage. So I look at it and go, when we change our focus, we get different results. I could have done less. I was saying I was getting up every hour and flushing the system as best I could with hot, soapy water to help. Now, if I'd done it once every 2 hours during my waking day time, then it would have taken even longer to clear. And now what do I know is I'm going to make sure that, a bucket of hot, soapy water goes down that drain regularly. I am going to, that's not going to be a maybe. Every night when I finish cleaning up my sink here, I'm going to fill up my little bowl that's in my sink. That's difficult to do that the wrong way around, in my sink there. All right, I'm going to fill up my washing bowl in the sink with hot soapy water and just throw it down the system. All right, I want to keep making sure that I keep those pipes clean. By the way, I also need to do that in my bathroom. So what I will do, I now know how that pipe works because of what happened with the blockage. I will fill up my wash hand basin with soapy water and then pull out the plug and let that go down the system as well. I also will continue to put soap into my toilet to let that flush soapy water as well. So, there are things that we can do. Remember, the way that we fix problems is not necessarily very quickly, right? It's about doing the right things regularly. Yes, Jeannie's saying focus on your life first and then focus outside of your life. Yes. So, one of the things that I uh, told you about, right, is that I also wanted to be patient with my friends. And I realized that if my friends are not phoning me as often as they used to, because their lives are getting busier and busier and everything else, I could choose to say that. I could choose to say, hey, they're just too busy to talk to me. But what I've started to do is I've started to get more focused on stopping that process. In other words, I now write and say, hey, when can I Zoom you? Or when can I talk to you on, whatever, on Facebook or whatever. I now ask for that time. And by the way, I also say half an hour would be great. Very rarely is, after half an hour, I'll say that's half an hour done. Yeah, 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 but let's carry on. You know, so what I found is if I can get them focused on some time with me, I get it. I've got to show you a really great present. Oh, maybe I'll do it tonight, because it is an interesting present that Marnie gave me. Uh, so, I look at it and go, I'm not normally a very patient person. But definitely, if you know that if I continue, remember the thing about the weight, right? I have consistently been taking smaller portions, and my body is now asking for less. And if you think about it, we're only in March, and I have already lost 7.5 pounds without dieting. I still have wrong foods. I just have less of everything so that I can still eat the wrong foods. That's my trade off. I know that my body is a reflection of what I am putting into my mouth. So, as I was telling one of my viewers this week, right, and I'm certain a lot of you understand this, if I want to see how well I am eating and whether I'm drinking enough, I check the color of my pee in my toilet every day, right? Because if I'm not drinking enough water, it's going to tell me the color is going to be darker. If I'm eating too much sugar or too much crud, carbs generally, it's going to show up in my pee. So, my goal is to get as clear a pee as I possibly can by eating what I eat. But I still eat bad things, just less of them. They're not on my everyday diet. So I look at this whole thing and go, there are some days where I go, I really would love to have um, baked beans on toast. All right. But now what I go is, how about I just have the baked beans? All right, Kimmy. Good to see you. Thank you. So Jeannie's saying losing this weight is wonderful for you, Sal. Bravo. Well, I'm hoping that you can see, Jeannie, that it is making a difference. But also, I'm hoping you understand it's not easy. I have to be patient with myself. I cannot change the habits of lifetime overnight. I know this can take me 10 years. All right. But I'm patient and I'm not quitting on myself. I know that there will be bad days when I suddenly go up. Why? Because I will be eating the wrong foods. And then it's a case of, will I be patient with myself to get control back? All right? Will I be patient enough with myself to get my control back? And all the time, I'm looking at a faster turnaround. All right? So if I was stress eating for any reason, I remind myself that is because you're out of control. If you are stress eating, you are not able to control what you're eating. That is a lack of control. Now, you need to get control back. How do you get control back? You go back to having a routine. How do you stop stress eating? You go back to a routine of what you eat. All right? And so, I look at it all, and I will be forever grateful to Jody for teaching me things like intermittent fasting and stuff like that. I don't do it all the time, but I can do it if I need to. And so that's what I do when I get out of control. I go, okay, what do I know works for me now? I know what works for me is for the next couple of days, I am not going to cook myself junk food for dinner. I'm going to have soup and a salad, right? Um, and I'm not going to have soup and throw in crackers or have soup and eat 2 slices of bread with it. I'm just going to have more soup. um, and then, if I do that correctly for a couple of days, I can still have steak and fries. But the steak will not be this big. The steak will be this big, and the fries will be half a potato. You see, I can do it all if I want to. I can have it all if I want to. I just need to make the portions smaller. So I ask you to be patient, as I said. These habits of a lifetime of bad eating, of not drinking enough water, of whatever. I just realized that cupboard door is open. I work now at consuming enough liquid to keep my body more healthy. And I don't have to keep track of it the way that I used to because I have bottles of water everywhere, right? So this is flavored water, right? It's got some lemon in it. It's got a little bit of spiced apple in it. Um, just enough to take the taste, give it a bit of taste. Oh, this also has some Earl Grey tea in it. So, I have my teapot. And once a day, I will brew up some, 2 things actually. I got some Earl Grey in there and some licorice spice. All right, so I'll make a teapot full. And that'll probably flavor my water for 2 days. All right. As you know, overnight, every night when I go to bed, I will fill up my water jug to about here, and I will throw in 1 slice of lemon. By the morning, I have lemon water, and I throw out the lemon, and then I add the other bits to it. Why lemon water? Well, lemon is really good as an anti-inflammatory. Every morning, I take this and I add, pour it into a glass. I add apple cider vinegar, and a little bit of honey. And then I add some turmeric and some cinnamon and other herbs that I know are good for me, and I just swirl it all around and drink that glass. That is breakfast. All right? That's how I start my day, is a glass of apple cider vinegar, honey, just about a cupful of apple cider vinegar, about the same amount of honey, and then I add the spices I want in there, the good ones that will get my metabolism going, and then I top it up with this. So, it's possible to do if you want to do it badly enough. But the truth is, if you don't want to do it, if you're still childish about it, and I understand that because I'm being there, if you are still childish about it, you'll have every excuse in the book as to why you can't do it. which means you don't want to do it as much as I do. You see, I want to lose weight. I want to get healthier more than I want to stay sick. All right? Right. Jeannie is saying patients always had plants in the living room. New ones all died, so I'm starting again. Why? Plants help my environment. Do they bring you peace of mind? I had a catch-22 happen, Jeannie. As you know, I am busy growing all sorts of funny things inside my house at the moment. But then I got overrun by those little bugs that are in the earth. And what I did is I said, either you got to stop growing things inside or you're going to have to get some stuff to deal with the little bugs. Let me show you how bad the problem got. I got some of these little sticky things that you can put up. Can you see all the little bugs on there? All right. So now this is a case of I am going to continue to grow things, but now I know that I'm going to have a lot of bugs. And if I do, I need things. I don't like killing bugs, but one of us has to survive here. So very important that we understand. The other thing I'm going to be doing is, I understand that I just need to be a bit patient. Another month should do it. Why? We're already mid-March, and I reckon by late April, I'll be able to put things out on the deck. So I've only got another month. So my question is, but in the meantime, what do I want to do? So I bought one of those bug zapper things, one of those machines that has those bulbs in it that attracts flying stuff and then kills them instantly. And I cannot tell you how many bugs I have killed with it. It's scary, just how many there have been in the house. So I know I've got to be patient. It took me time to get that many bugs in the house. And they were there and I didn't realize it. And now you can't have earth without having bugs. And so catch-22, how do I help myself? All right. And what do I do with all those dead bugs? Put them back into the earth. Let them do their thing as compost, right? So, you look at it and you sort of get a bit of a sense of humor. So my point being, anything you are trying to change requires patience. Anything you are trying to change requires patience. The question is, do you want it enough? Do you want it enough? That is my question. Because if you want it enough, all right, you will learn patience. If you want it enough, you will do the right things. Not all the time necessarily, but most of the time. Because what you will do is you will train yourself that the excuses are no longer acceptable. Because I know the excuses I give, right? We all know our own excuses. How many of you understand the principle that I'm talking about? If you want it badly enough, you will be patient enough, give yourself enough time, and keep going regardless if it's not perfect. You will keep going until you get the result you want. I think that's really important. Now, some of you, as I said, have got illnesses that you will not recover from, right? They will continue to be very serious. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do the right things. This is about, can I do enough of the right things to prolong my life, if that's what you want, right? Or am I going to say, well, there's no point really because da 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 da. Well, that's your decision. That's a choice you make every day. That is a choice you make every day. I always say that with Jody, right? Jody has the most incredible amount of illnesses going on. And yet Every day she fights to do the best that she possibly can to improve her health, to improve her state of mind, or whatever. And I really respect her for that, because I hear less excuses from her than anybody that I've ever had on the channel. And talk to Jody a lot every day. And you don't hear her complain. You don't hear her blaming people. You don't hear her say it's not fair. No. She just says, this is the next thing I'm working on. And so you look at it and go, the choice is yours to be patient and keep changing. I haven't spoken about my weight every single week, but every now and then I want to remind you. I want to remind you my shape is changing. And it's not because I'm lucky. Right? Oh, aren't you lucky? No, luck has nothing to do with it. What's changing my shape is what I am and I'm not putting in my mouth. That's what's changing my shape. I realize that exercise alone will not do the job I want it to do. In fact, it does less of a job than I want it to do. Therefore, just even exercising every day isn't going to do it for me. What's going to do it for me is what I put in my mouth. And it is going to require patience because it's going to take time. Now, if you are a perfect person, like my one friend that I went to visit recently, she has lost 50 pounds in a year, right? Eating properly. Smaller portions, good food, no carbs, except for the natural carbs and fruit and vegetable stuff. It's just like she's lost 50 pounds in a year. Scary to see, but that's what she's done. So I didn't ever want to do that. I wanted to just learn to eat better so that I could just quietly keep losing weight. And I'm happy with that. My experiment on that has worked and is continuing to work. The interesting thing is to see how much it works. So do you imagine that when I look at the scale and go, gosh, I've lost 7.5 pounds this year alone, I feel excited and inspired. And then when I check how far do I need to go to get to be overweight, not obese, and it is another 29 pounds. Could that destroy my willpower? Well, it's not worth it. If I got to lose another 29 pounds just to be overweight, is it worth it? Yes. Yes, it is. And by the way, overweight's fine with me. I did some research and found out that overweight people actually handle disease better than people of perfect weight. You don't even want to know how many pounds I've got to lose to be the ideal weight for my height. It's just like, no, really, I'm not going there. And by the way, when I set my goals, I'm just a couple of pounds off my next goal that I have. And a goal normally takes me about a year to achieve. But it's just like I am only a couple of pounds away from my goal for this year. Wow. Um, so I'm doing more of the right things than I normally do. And we're coming into the seasons where I'm going to be more busy. Yay. Very exciting. But then Christmas, fall will come, and then Halloween and candy, and then Christmas and cookies, and then we start all over again. But each year, what I'm tracking is where is the high point of each year. And the joke is this was the high point of year one, year two, this was the high point, year three, this was the high point. You understand, overall, even though I'm going up and down, overall, the average weight is coming down significantly. So I look at you and I say, think about this, think about your goals. Have you given up on them because you don't have enough patience? All right, so Niasha's saying that she is 110 pounds. That's awesome. How tall are you? And, because you say that you're not sure, um, whether you are the right weight or not. Well, it all depends on your height. Because 110 pounds for somebody at my height, which is 5'7", is, pretty amazing. I can dream. But, again, 110 pounds for somebody who's 5 foot is a different thing altogether. So you understand it's not, I, I can't tell you unless I know what height you are and so forth. You never took down your measurement. You don't know how tall you are. Do you have a tape measure? Okay, so here's the trick. If you have a tape measure at home and you imagine this is your bedroom door, okay? Okay, this is your bedroom door. Open your bedroom door and you see this part here, this part of the door. Stand against it and put something flat on your head and then make a mark. And take your tape measure and measure how tall you are. All right, I've got to go as well. So Jeannie, thank you for your help. To all of you, thank you for being here. And before I start choking again, let me say that patience is not easy, but it is something we can all work on. And it is something we can teach our friends to work on. Teaching people that it's okay for it to take a bit of time is absolutely wonderful healing for everybody. When you think you have to get it fixed in a week is where the stress comes. I know I've got the rest of my life to work on this overweight problem. All right. And that could be only one day. I don't know how much longer my life is. All right. None of us do. But I'm just going to not worry about it too much. I'm not going to focus on just doing the right things for as much time as I've got. This is DearMamaSal saying, patience is a virtue. We know that. It took you a long time to get all these things wrong. It's going to take more time to get things right. Be kind to yourself. Understand that. This is DearMamaSal saying, thank you, everything. Thanks, Jeannie, for all that you do. And we'll see you tonight. Bye-bye for now.